paid after 3 months, and membership may be suspended or revoked by a majority vote of the board pursuant to Article 2.3 of the bylaws. That's it for Kiwanis Education, President Newton. And of course, just remind us all that our dues must be paid by November 30. That's the club dues must be paid by November 30. And that will be done or facilitated with our members complying and paying the dues. So funds are there to meet the requirement. Thank you, President Newton.
Thank you, LG Desmond. And that charge you just gave to the members of the Kiwanis Club of Kingston in Kiwanis Education, I'm pretty sure it sounds like a speech that Mr. Cameron must have had to make during his tenure as at the helm of cricket. But I just want to remind persons that the club can't go on without the dues. So those of you who are listening who kind of forgot to pay the dues, we're ready for it. All right. No, this is the point that we have been waiting on. Mr. Cameron kindly consented to come here and speak with us about economics and cricket, and he probably will extend to sports in general. I don't know. But we have none other than DP Rupert Whitaker to welcome him. So, DP Rupert, it is your turn, sir.
Let me interject something before DP Rupert comes in. That for those who are not familiar with how we do it, is that Dave will do his presentation, and then
I hear.
Yeah, are you hearing me any better?
Yes,
much better.
Okay, yes, that Dave will do his presentation, and then at the end of that, then we'll have a Q&A. So I just wanted everybody to be clear about that. So go ahead, DP Rupert.
Thank you, President. Thank you, EP Stu. The economics of world cricket and its impact on West Indies cricket. Those of us who have been following cricket and especially the recent tournament and the upcoming tournaments, we are very interested in how West Indies can make some money. But unfortunately, we weren't in the last one, and we're not going to be in the next one. But Sir Dave, it's so good to have you. I remember some years ago, even though I'm not on camera, I think it was DP Charles who introduced me to you, and you went on to become the head of Cricket West Indies Cricket Board, and we are very happy to have you. Wycliffe Dave Cameron was born a few years ago, 1970. Graduated from Kingston College.
Unfortunate.
Forever.
Unfortunate.
I'm in my purple shirt, not because I'm a Fortis, but I have many friends.
Unfortunately.
Here the jealous ones.
Dave earned his many academic accolades, and he first earned the Douglas Forrest Scholarship, and this was sponsored by Frank Rance for hotel management, and that was in 1989 to pursue studies at the University of the West Indies, Nassau, where he earned a bachelor's degree with first-class honors. In 1988, he graduated from the University of the West Indies with a Master's of Science degree in Computer-Based Management Information Systems. And over the years, he has worked his way up in finance to today being the founder and the CEO of Infinity Capital Jamaica Limited. He has been an experienced leader, and from all indications and from what we know, he has been skilled in negotiation. He has a great reputation at being a good budgeting professional. He's good at business planning, operations, sports management, And we could go on. And for over 20 years, he has worked in the finance area of our society. First worked with Deering, Bunting and Golding, 1995, where he ended up being vice president of Treasury, Trading and Asset Management at Manufacturers Merchant Bank was his next foray, where he oversaw the assets under management of over $21 billion. That must have been something in those days, with an equity of over $1 billion. He spent 3 years at Sterling Asset Management. That was between 2010 and 2013. And he helped the firm to double their capital in 3 years. And he was responsible for the launch of Sterling Investments Limited, a company which is currently listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange. Cricket. Played cricket as a youngster. I don't know though, Dave. I can't recall hearing you scoring any runs at Kingston College or in your high school days. But as a member of the then West Indies Cricket Board, as he rose up through the ranks, now called West Indies Cricket West Indies, we know of him as being one of the great administrators in West Indies cricket. He served in various capacities in Cricket West Indies until 2013, when he became president, and he served until 2019. We are very happy to have you, Dave. You transformed Cricket West Indies Cricket Board into the professional organization that we know today. And you are here to talk to us on the economics of world cricket, its impact on West Indies cricket. We are willing, our hearts and our ears are open to the many suggestions, many things that you have to say to us, how they can make not only cricket better off, but us as individuals, as we listen, as Kiwanians and friends, as we listen to you. We know we're going to be getting a lot from you, a lot of advice, a lot of history, a lot of economic stuff. So welcome, sir. The floor is yours. Can we put our hands together, all those who can do, as we welcome Wycliffe, Dave Cameron, former president of Cricket West Indies and businessman extraordinary.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Dave.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Sir Rupert. And just to let you know that I was the actual vice captain of the West Indies, the Kingston College Sunlight team when we won in 2019. Well, I'll tell I'm dating myself. Back in 1989, and that was at Kensington Cricket Club. So you will know that I am 1 second.
You're alluding to your score.
Yeah, well, what I said to you, Riley, happy to have you as well, is that I was never I wasn't a major batsman, but I actually scored 30 in that wonderful final and had 4 wickets for what we call in those terms spit. So we played champions. Chris would know about those things. Unfortunately, he had left school already. But you can ask Julian Robinson, MP Julian Robinson. He only was able to face 1 delivery from me during that game. So that's the history of my involvement in cricket. But you know, it's thank you very much, Stuart, for inviting me. You twisted my arm to come here to try and have this presentation this evening. I see a lot of persons have gathered, and I really hope that I can provide some amount of information, edification, and hopefully stir some conversations, because this is not one to, we're not here to, it's not gospel. These are some of my views, and I hope you will be able to share with me as we go forward. Are you able to see my screen? No.
Not yet.
All right, let me.
Sure we will when you put it up.
You now have the privilege to share.
Okay.
I can see you, Dave.
All right. Can you see the screen now?
Yes, you just need to put it in slide mode.
Yes.
Right.
There you go. All right. Again, any conversation about West Indies cricket, I have to give you a little bit of background. I know Sir Rupert gave you some conversations, some things about my professional career. But while at the same time having that professional career, I was deeply involved in cricket. And don't listen to Stephen Gregg. I don't think he ever beat me in a game of squash during my time playing squash. So not only cricket, but in squash and all the other sports that I participated in. I started at Kensington Cricket Club, and that's important because that's where I actually learned the game. And so while I played at all the levels, I carried water, I like to say, and scored the board, rose to the level of manager of the team when I came back from university, and then eventually became the president in 2000. And I remained president of Kensington Cricket Club until 2019. It was at that point that I became, during 1997, I think, Chris will remember, he was working at West Indies Cricket at the time, and that was the first attempt at professionalizing cricket. And the Honorable Patterson created what we call a, what was it, a franchise league or something to that effect. County Championships, it was called. Kensington Cricket Club, where I was a manager, we won the tournament. And as a result of that, we were one of the teams that played in that county championships. We had 6 teams, 3 clubs, Cornwall, Middlesex, and Surrey. And Kensington won the tournament handsomely. And I was asked to come to Jamaica Cricket to become a director of Jamaica Cricket. That's the first time I even knew, what they did at Jamaica Cricket Board. I went on and I actually became the treasurer of Jamaica Cricket. I served from 1998, I think, until 2007. And it was during that time that I became a director of West Indies Cricket. I became a director in 2002. So yes, so while I was president from 2013 to 2019, I was actually a director from 2002. And in my capacity as a director, I became the chairman of the Financial and Commercial Affairs Committee in 2003. Why that is significant is because all of the financial, the commercial operations of West Indies Cricket ran through that. And I think that is how I really became the president of West Indies Cricket, because there are very few persons at the time who actually understood, or still today understands, all the machinations of the commercial arm of West Indies Cricket, except maybe Chris Daring, who worked for the ICC and worked for West Indies Cricket and the ICC during the Cricket World Cup in 2007. As Chris alluded to, and again, warm welcome to Chris. And Chris, please, I invite you to come in at any point in time. As a member of the president of West Indies Cricket, you get to sit at the helm of the ICC. And I had the opportunity of being a member of the F&C, the Financial and Commercial Affairs Committee of the ICC. And as Chris alluded to, I was very much a part of all the discussions that would have taken place during that time. And I'll give you a little bit more insight as to why that sitting there for 6 years was so important. When Stuart called me, I was reluctant, but also excited to share with you, because the economics of world cricket is something I've been very, very passionate about. And as a matter of fact, we wrote several papers to ICC, as well as we had a number of committees that we were forced to form to review this. I'm not sure what has happened since my departure, but it's something that is very near and dear to my heart. For us to understand the economics of world cricket, I think we need to just kind of take a step back and understand West Indies cricket and how the history of it and how it was financed, how it came into being. The West Indies cricket, you may or may not know, was established in 1926 by the West Indies Sugar Growers Association. In 1928, we got our test status. And it's important that you understand that the early financing of West Indies cricket, its entire being was by the sugar plantations from Kingston to Georgetown, as my friend Andrew Mason would say. And so there's no commercialization at this time. And all the players were amateurs, rank amateurs. As a matter of fact, the interesting thing is that up until maybe about 1970, there were actually probably very, very, very few professional cricketers at the time. And what you had were professionals who played cricket. And you can recall, you will have persons like even, what's his name? Always escape me, wicketkeeper from Raleigh, from your Kingston Cricket Club. Alan Way, all of these guys were lawyers, for example, that played cricket. And fast forward to today, we have professional cricketers. Very importantly, 2000, I think, which is what prompted Stuart to ask me to have this conversation. A pivotal moment happened in 2000 in world cricket. There's a gentleman by the name of Dalmeyer, who was at the time the president of the BCCI. And Dalmeyer became the what we would call the father of commercialization of world cricket. He recognized that India, which is a population of 1.3 billion, and with cricket being almost a religion to India, they decided that they wanted to change how cricket, the economics of cricket, was organized. So prior to 2000, we would play home and away matches with the 9 other full member countries at the time on a reciprocal basis. And when we played countries like India, England, and Australia in particular, they would pay us to come and play with them. As a matter of fact, the history has it that we probably played in India more times than any other country in history, because at the time we used to go to India, most of the other countries didn't want to go there. Australia and England had an issue going to India, and so we went to India every year. And that's where, if you go to India, if you ever had a chance to go to India, and Chris will attest it, to go to the boardrooms in India, West Indian cricketers are revered all over because of what they did, of what we did during that time. So what Dalmere did was decided that and this was by a vote of 9-1, and it's significant because again, Honorable Patoso was the guy in the room that was voted down as one person that did not want to change this model. And what it meant was that for the first time, all the countries would keep their revenues. By this time, cricket started to really become popular, and we were awarded the Cricket World Cup in 2007 to be hosted in the Caribbean. At this time, cricket really started to take off. And so imagine what happened is that India said, we will sell our rights and we will keep all the monies. When you visit us, we will pay your hotel, your on-ground expenses, which equates to your hotel, and you will pick up all other costs, including paying your players, etc. That was, in my mind, the beginning of the end of where we are today. In addition to that, we also had the other, I like to say, when we're talking about cricket, we can't divorce ourselves from the wider geopolitical world. In that, you recall as well that at that time, we changed, I don't know, but England changed the quota system for players that could play in their county championships, the numbers. And as the declining fortunes of West Indies players continued, we got less and less opportunities to play within England. All of this coupled with the fact that our resources now were less. Why? Because we were not being paid by England, India, and Australia to tour them. Our players' quality deteriorated, and what one acts on the other. Significantly, again, as a matter of fact, I need to mention this point. In 2014, we had the Big Three model that everybody likes to talk about. I was actually a director at the time, and it's one of the black marks against me because everybody said that I voted the Big Three. But I say to you, ladies and gentlemen, here's the scenario that you were presented with. You got to the ICC, and you were told that the Australia and England says we're tired of having India shouting from outside the tent, and we need to get them inside. And so here what we've decided to do. We've decided that India, Australia, and England will rule world cricket for the foreseeable future. One will always chair the ICC. One will always chair the FNC, the Financial and Commercial Affairs Committee, where all the commercial decisions are taken. As a matter of fact, the ICC is divided into two companies. One is the ICC board, which deals with the regulations and rules around the game, and the IDI board, which is really run by the FNCA committee, where all the decisions are made around financing, where matches are awarded, and how the distributions of surpluses are taken. So one would chair the ICC. So one would be in charge of the entire governance, one would be in charge of the financial governance, and one would be in charge of the executive committee that comprises a subcommittee of the wider board. They all decided that, and I must digress here because this model is not dissimilar to the IOC model, except it's not as, I like to call it egregious, in that if you know anyone that has been an IOC, the United States gets a larger proportionate share of the media rights of the Olympic because of its size and because of the fact that most of the media houses, the valuable media houses, are out of the United States. India charged that of the 1.3 billion and of all the major, the Star Disney that had bought the rights was from out of India, and that they needed to get the majority of the resources. Not only did they decide that they need to get majority of the resources, they also decided that the distribution, the surplus, must also be shared up, with them getting the majority of it. And I just put there currently in July 2000 this year, it's been noted that the 12 nations, the surplus being expected every year from the ICC matches will be $600 million, and that India will get 38.5% of that surplus. India by itself will get that kind of return. Now, this is in addition to all events being played in India, major events being played in India, Australia, and England. They have the biggest commercial markets. And in addition to which, now the geography of world cricket is of such that West Indies cricket is the only one that's left by itself. And let me explain for you. Asia, I'm sure you can appreciate Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, and of course India, and Nepal. Asia Pacific, you have Tonga, Fiji, New Zealand, and Australia. Africa, you have the African continent, Kenya, South Africa, Zimbabwe, etc. And then Europe, England used to be the ones who took care of us as the parent of the colonized island. And of course, when sugar did not stop being the staple, we suddenly were not the chosen crew anymore. So Europe is now developed into a proper cricketing nation, and you know that the cricketing region, you have Scotland, Ireland, Netherlands, and of course, England and Wales. There, and listen, there's a lot. I know I'm going around, but I know when I get, you'll be able to ask me the questions. A lot of pieces I'll fill in for you. I like to say that there are 3 commercial epochs in world cricket that is not necessarily talked about. And I'm sure all Raleigh would remember this. But the Kerry Packer series in 1977 to 79 was the first time cricket was commercialized. And everybody remember this. As a matter of fact, I don't want to say that players were banned, but some players abandoned West Indies cricket during that time. West Indies won the 1975 World Cup. And after that, Kerry Packer decided to start a series in Australia because he was denied the right to host matches under lights, etc. And he created his own series, and a number of Australians left And the West Indians went over and played in the Scarpacker series that lasted 3 years, 77, 78, 78, and 79. And some of our great players, Clive Lloyd, Michael Holding, went and played in this series. This created, I think, the first fallout in West Indies cricket, however short-lived. Then in 1982, we had the second epoch where, as a result of apartheid, we had a number of players were invited to go and play in South Africa. And we know the result of that. We have a number of players that are banned. Even to today, some of the players in Barbados, ban has been lifted, but this is the case. And then the third situation is, of course, what I call the Stanford T20 revolution. And this was in 2006 in Antigua, and then culminating with the T20 World Cup, the first T20 World Cup in 2007 in South Africa. And as a result of that, we have the current situation where our players have now the opportunity to go and play franchise cricket and earn way more than the West Indies Cricket Board can provide them because of the resources that India, England, and Australia commands from their own TV rights. A little further, I will explain how that is derived. So, this is what the current commercial reality of world cricket is like, just to give you some numbers. Australia rights announced $1 billion from 2024 to 2031. The ECB deal with Sky is reportedly to worth 260 million or 220 million pounds per annum. Viacom, which is in India, is reportedly to pay 5,963 crore for the Indian domestic matches for 1 year. That's roughly $800 million just for the domestic rights of the Indian cricket. Has nothing to do with IPL. And the IPL rights were reportedly sold for $6 billion in June 2022 for 5 years. The ICC media rights was sold for $2.3 billion for 2023 to 2027. And Cricket West Indies rights are less than $50 million for 5 years. Do we get the gist? I hope so. So essentially, you're in a market where your performance is really irrelevant. We're in an environment, and please don't take it the wrong way, with 5 million poor people. We don't pay subscription. As a matter of fact, we can't afford to pay the kind of subscription that is required. And so West Indies cricket really does not have a domestic market. The rights that we get from our cricket is subject to the countries that we engage, that tour us. And I'll explain that a little further. So West Indies cricket will continue to decline because of the declining resources. And because of the resources, the performance goes with it. We were able to try and put together a professional league in 2014. That is challenged, and it's challenged every day because we need more resources to get it to go forward. And as a team's performance dwindle, so too does our commercial rights on sponsorships, etc. The companies that supported cricket in the region, vis-a-vis sugarcane, as I spoke about earlier, bananas to a lesser extent, and bauxite, certainly in Jamaica, are either non-existent or very, very, I want to call that, yeah, almost non-existent in Jamaica today. our commercial partners have indicated to us years ago that a test match that lasts 5 days is only worth the same value as a T20 match that lasts 3 hours. As a matter of fact, the analysis given to us at the ICC meeting was that the viewers are only consuming 18 minutes of every game. So it didn't matter whether it was 5 days, 7 hours, or 3 hours, they're only going to consume 18 minutes. And so if you are the broadcaster, you know, what do you do? And the last situation I'd like to point out to us is that cricket is now an Olympic sport. Being an Olympic sport, it means that West Indies as a nation will have to compete against each other, individual countries, in order to get into the Olympics. It's very important, as I said, to understand that we only derive revenues when we host matches in the region. And so if you look at the current situation of those rights fees, West Indies cricket, if you notice, is on the road most of the time. It's costing us. We don't have a domestic market. We don't have a domestic rights market. And so we are troubled. And I took the time. I hope you can see this. Let me previous. Let me see if I can. I hope you can see this.
Zoom it a little, right?
Yeah. By the way, West Indies Cricket Board's financials are available for the world to see. That was something that, while I was president, we instituted. So from all the financial statements of West Indies Cricket from 2014 onwards are available on their website for you to peruse. And so it's not state secret, even though everybody says that we are not transparent. So if you look at the numbers here, revenues in 2021.
Zoom it a little more.
Let me see if I can do that. All right. Any better?
Yeah.
How is that? Great.
Yeah, man.
We can zoom in and look at it better.
Can we?
Yeah.
Yeah, much better.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So this shows you the dilemma West Indies cricket has. In 2021, its total revenues was 27 million, and in 2022, revenues of $78 million. Media rights in 2022 was 43%, 27% in 2021. ICC distributions, 30% in 2021 and 51% in 2022 and 51% in 2021. What are the ICC distributions? I spoke about it earlier. After the events are held in each country, these major events are held, the ICC funds them, and the surplus from the media rights of each event is then, each group of events is then shared up among the full member countries and the associate countries. And I showed you a slide earlier where 88% of that surplus goes to the top 12 nations. Now we've added 2 more to the 10, Afghanistan and Ireland are now full member countries, plus the original 10. And the distribution we would have gotten in 2022 would be our percentage of that distribution. So it's significant. Now, what the ICC has done in order to combat the poor distribution model is that they've decided to have more ICC events in order to have higher distributions and more distributions. So you'd have noticed that they are now having a T20 World T20 every 2 years, and in between that they have a Champions Trophy, and then they have a four test championships going on, and then they have the World Cup every 4 years. That is to then garner more revenues to say we'll distribute it to our partners, which are your full member countries. However, the challenge with that is every time you put an event in the calendar, you also reduce the opportunity for all the other countries to host. And so there's a massive imbalance. The season in India, for example, is about 5 months. In West Indies cricket, when I started in West Indies cricket in 2002, we used to have anywhere between 40 and 50 days of cricket, of international cricket per year. We're very lucky if we have 20 days of cricket this year. For the first time, we are having England touring the West Indies in December, and they're not playing a test match. That's unprecedented. Release fees, I'd like to talk a little bit about. That was my attempt to try and level the playing field with these huge countries that were utilizing our skills, our players. So in 2015, we implemented what we call the release fees. We asked the countries to pay 10% on the value of the contracts of the players that they're being used in these different leagues around the world. And it was subsequently increased to 20% in India. Not sure what's going on, but these were negotiated rates. And what we've done is we ensure that these release fees also trickle down to the territorial boards and to the clubs from whence the players come. Again, because of my unique position of understanding the challenges of clubs, territorial boards, we're able to ensure that development funds goes directly back to them as a result of the production of their players. And, you know, I just think I have to summarize for you all where my views are, and these are just my views. Cricket continues to grow very much. It's going to grow at an alarming rate in the United States and other geographies. Our opportunity is if the US continues to grow, and we can tag onto their coattails. If the US gets cricket in schools and colleges, it creates a pathway for our players. Right now, the fastest growing sport in Jamaica is lacrosse. And the only reason for that is because of the opportunities it provides for students to go to these Ivy League colleges abroad. And so as a result of that, lacrosse has been growing leaps and bounds. CWI will have to make a decision about test matches. We spoke about the economics of tests. We don't have population centers to watch the game, ticket prices. I didn't even mention the ticket prices in the slide before, because again, the ticket prices in the Caribbean are very, very nominal. ICC will need to make more decisions around equity. I doubt that will happen. The ICC is now referred to on more occasion than not as the Indian Cricket Council. Don't say I said that. If you say I will deny it. And so it's very unlikely that that distribution model will change in the foreseeable future unless world cricket becomes so bad and it's only 3 teams playing that they'll need to realize that we need to have more equity in the system. The CWI, in my mind, needs to continue to fight to get back to a proposal where we can negotiate payment per matches to go back to where we were pre-2000 and see if there's any opportunity in there. The franchise cricket will continue to grow at an alarming rate with international cricket now playing in the windows. So before, 20 years ago, it was international cricket with a little sprinkled with a little domestic cricket. Now it's franchise cricket sprinkled with a little international cricket. And finally, I believe players' earnings will grow exponentially in the foreseeable future. And thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for listening. I'm sure you have a lot of questions. I don't see any in the chat, so I will pause here to listen to you all. Thank you very, very much for the opportunity to share my views on the economics of cricket and its impact on our little region here.
Thank you very much, Dave. Wow, you know, the thing that struck me most is when you spoke about
not hearing you. Not hearing you, DP.
I never used to have to move my mic, but is this better?
Yes.
Much better.
All right. Okay. I'll keep the mic where it should be. Yeah, I was very curious about the way India wanted to, propose to split it up. I mean, they wouldn't be getting the revenues that they are getting if they weren't playing somebody and somebody who other people wanted to watch. I mean, so how come we don't get any of that money? I can't understand how is it that they just tell us this is how it go and we don't have any say? I just don't get that part in terms of how we're forced into that situation.
Right. So remember, and that is why I like I said, I've said a lot of things, so I know it's going to be a little difficult to piece them all together. But that's why I pointed to the fact that the geographies have support. So India support is Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and
Sri Lanka.
And Afghanistan. Okay, there are 12 full member countries. So you work the math or how the votes are going to go. So the 12 full members vote have one vote, and the associate members have some kind of proportionate vote. And so they're not able to really change the landscape. Those are some of the things I was trying to change, which is to get each country to have one vote, as in FIFA. But that's not the case. In world cricket, the associate countries have proportionate votes, and depends on how they're ranked within world cricket, then they have votes. Again, West Indies, remember the vote in 2009 to 1. We're the only one in this hemisphere, we're without our big brother England, who's now fostering Europe and doesn't take care of the Caribbean. And so that is our challenge. We need people like the Michael Holdings and them to talk out against I call it injustice, inequity in world cricket. And I think only by those persons making those pronouncements will India even have a review of the system.
Okay.
I must mention to you once I brought that up. Like I said, we wrote many papers about the inequity and the challenges Cricket West Indies was having. Let me give you this scenario. In 2016, we won all the championships that they were on offer: the men's T20, the women's T20, and the under-19. West Indies cricket did not benefit to the tune of not even $1 extra, because all the resources that came in were paid to the players, and we did not benefit. As a matter of fact, it hurt us because immediately all our players were now on the spotlight. All our players and administrators were on the spotlight, and that's when the people started to recruiting all our players all around the world.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to stop sharing your screen, Dave.
Okay.
And then I'm going to ask, there's one hand up. We're going to look for the hands, and we'll go in that sequence in terms of persons who would like to ask questions. Okay, so the one is Dennis Heath. Go ahead, Dennis.
Mr. Cameron, good evening again. Thank you so much for your presentation. You've given us much food for thought. Now, in view of the declining revenue picture that we have seen, currently West Indies has Test series, ODIs, T20, Championship, CP50, the Academy, A teams, the under 19, under 17, and that's on the men's side, equivalent on the women's side. Women are being paid the same, and I'm not complaining of that, but the expenditure must surely have grown exponentially. How can West Indies compete on the world stage to support the growing financial pressure? Can West Indies really sustain? And given that the T20 revenue is the same as the 5-day test revenue, how can you give us something to hope for as far as West Indies cricket?
That is unfortunately, it's not for me to give you something to hope for. My job here today is to give you the information. I'm not in a position anymore to give you any hope. But I would say we're gonna have to make some very difficult decisions. One, around test cricket. I don't think that our infrastructure, meaning the number. Dennis, I mean, you're probably been around that time, but I was told that prior to 2000, persons would get time off from work and paid time off to go and watch cricket at Savannah Park and these kinds of things. Those things don't happen anymore. So we don't have the time, we don't have the population. Jamaica being the biggest population center in the region is not, we've had ODIs T20 at Savannah Park and it's just barely, half capacity. So how do we support that? So it's not, it's less about the passion and the history, but more about can we sustain it? Because at the end of the day, in my view, whatever we're doing should be sustainable and should be able to grow for all to benefit.
Thank you.
Mr. Whitaker? So Rupert, you can speak, or you
Yes,
be moderator? Okay.
hope you're hearing me now, Dave. We missed out on hosting any of the matches for the upcoming T20 tournament in North America. Seeing that we are in need of money to run, couldn't we get in on it so that some of the money could flow into Cricket West Indies coffers or places like Jamaica? We are the largest center, as you said, and we missed out on hosting even one game.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate. And my friend Chris Daring has written about it. I decided not to take on that particular matter this evening, but it's very, very unfortunate. Chris will tell you in 2007 we hosted cup, but it was quite successful, and it's very unfortunate that Jamaica did not see the value in hosting cricket, because so apart from the revenues that I just showed you about, West Indies cricket, the value to our country of hosting international, and this is the most watched sport by Asia by any stretch. And so you'll have been able to showcase Jamaica as a destination. So it is unfortunate, but I can't explain exactly what happened and why we did not put in a bid.
Who else has a hand? No, I don't see any more hands. Okay, Dennis is
Seems
back
like
up.
any other questions?
Yeah,
Oh,
thank you.
go
Yeah.
ahead, Dennis.
Um,
Yes.
the revenue sharing picture that you've shown us, and I know it's been published widely. Can you, if you can tell us anyway, explain how is it that the vote came down in the way it has? In other words, there are surely more members of the ICC who should be voting on this. How is it then that the big three can have such a great impact as to be able to grab the lion's share?
All right, so you remember, as I said, they have the biggest TV markets, domestic TV markets in their own countries. So what they've done is that each juncture, so the ICC calendar is done in 4-year rotations. And so each time there's a world event, it comes to an end, one of those rotations come to an end, and there's another rotation. These three guys sit down and plan how many times they're going to play each other and create their own events within that window. And then they come to the rest of us to fill in the slots. So that's how they control the world. As I said to you, we don't make any money when we host Bangladesh. We lose millions of dollars. We host Bangladesh, Afghanistan, Sri Lanka, Pakistan. The only time Western cricket makes money, so that $70 million you saw in the 2022 was because we hosted India and England in the same year. And that is why our revenues look like that. So if you don't host those countries, you don't make money. And so the drawing card is for every country to sit down and go to the feet of those three and ask them to come and play them within that 4-year rotation, so that they're domestic, so they can have some value in their own domestic rights.
Thank you so much. But if I'm allowed one other question not related to economy, you mentioned the suspended players who went to South Africa, and yet you indicated that Lawrence Rowe suspension or ban, whatever you used to call it, has not been lifted. How does getting that suspension lifted, how is it done? Is it done because somebody in the board make a proposal, or is it done because pressure's put on the board? How exactly can Lawrence Rowe be removed from that banned list?
That's a good question, and I'll leave that to the attempts were made recently, and you know, unforeseen comments were made, and the matter was put to rest again for the timing. But I'm sure it is something that is ongoing review.
Okay. Winsome, is that? Yeah, that's Winsome's iPhone. It's your time.
Good evening all. And Dave, I must say, and the organizers for this evening, it's long in coming, and I'm sorry I missed it because of a previous meeting which ran late. And so my question, you may have responded to that in your presentation, is cricket therefore dying in our region? And one, it's really now for me seeming share economics with the US being brought in the fold, where games are now being played there. And as such, you, of course, emphasis on the shorter version of the game. Is there really a future for cricket in Jamaica, my hometown more so, and the West Indies at large, given our current position?
So Winsome, thank you very, very much. And sorry you missed the presentation. I will send the slides to the host when I'm finished. But the simple answer is yes and yes, Winsome. I did say the game is growing. It's growing leaps and bounds. The United States just launched a minor league and major league this year, and it's only going to get bigger and better. The future of West Indies cricket, I think, is where the challenge is. And that's why I mentioned Olympics as well. So the brand of Jamaica, I believe right now is probably as big, if not bigger than West Indies cricket, because of what Jamaica has done in sports. And so Jamaica playing on its own as an Olympic team will have a future. And that's just my view.
Awesome. And I think that's in a good direction, and then said out of each adversity come forth good. So
well, good if you're not necessarily a regional, if you're not necessarily thinking regional, it's unfortunate. But the T20 game,
well, unfortunate regional, but the challenges we have had as a region over the years.
Region, yes.
This would therefore bring forth what others may have been wanting before. But I'm happy to hear that, although this would still take away, with the US coming to the forefront, the longer version of the game, wouldn't it?
Yeah, again, like I said, my personal view, the longer version of the game is all but over in this region. I don't want to be, if you're not competitive, again, I made a point, and for the first time in the history of England coming to the West Indies, they are not playing a test match. That tells you everything. Yes. We're not competitive. There's no value. The broadcasters believe that there is no value because the broadcasters are who are determining what you play. That's how the values are determined. And so, as I said, if a test match is valued the same 18 minutes as a T20, why would you spend 5 days to prepare and host people if you're not able to realize the value?
Okay, thank you.
Understood.
Thank you. Before we go to IPP, Robert, let me just ask this. Somebody in the chat has posed a question. I just want to throw it in at this stage. It's asked who. It's John. The person is John. Will cricket ever have a world governing body similar to FIFA? Well,
yeah, the answer to John is that when we have persons pushing, and somebody said it earlier, India, England, and Australia can't play themselves over and over. And I think as soon as every other nation recognizes that and starts pushing to have one vote, that's when we'll be able to have that. I used to challenge the ICC on a regular basis that they're not a governing body, they're a members body. And it's only for the full members. So it's not a governing body at the time, it is a members body. And we really need some freedom fighters in there to push to get that change.
Okay, let's go to Robert, IPP Robert. Go ahead, Robert.
Good night, Mr. Cameron.
Good night, sir.
Yeah. With cricket being in the Olympics, it was in the Olympics, I think, in '96 when South Africa won, if I kind of remember. But with cricket, with we being in the Americas, which have North and South America, and how can we tap into the football market in South America? So, for instance, we know World Cup time, all of South America, crazy when it comes on to World Cup. You know, North America, the sports, baseball, football, basketball, hockey. How can we tap into both markets? And I heard you mention something about TV rights. Now, the mad countries, India, especially Pakistan and Sri Lanka, those countries that cricket mad, they gain a lot from the rights. In football, when we have Premier League, we notice that the clubs also gain a lot of money from the TV rights.
So, I really like to know how can we tap into the America market, which is the South America, and also how can, we gain some funds. Because really cricket, I'm just a sports person, but cricket is cricket, man. Lovely cricket is lovely cricket. It's just to tap into the market because we have the talent, and as you say in 2016, it's really funny. We won everything, wiped the plate clean, but yet it cost us so much money. So I really want to know how can we tap into the Americas market, especially the football market in South America, and how can we start to earn from TV rights.
I wonder if Chris is listening and could take that on for me, because that one is above my pay grade.
Sorry,
Chris,
sir.
Chris Jane was working in the rights market. May be able to, at the end of the day, people are not going to buy and watch what they don't play themselves. So the short answer is that we have to grow the game playing in North America, which was one of my thrusts. I met with the college association on several occasions to discuss how we could get cricket into the curriculum in colleges. We were told about Title IX, and just let me explain quickly for you. Title IX is almost like affirmative action in the US where sports is concerned. And the idea is that they can't add any more male sport unless you add female, unless you have a certain amount of female sport. So they could actually add cricket. It could be easier to add female cricket rather than male cricket because they had too many male sports. So it's something that was discussed, was looked at. I made many trips there. My friends from the US will tell you, because I believe that is the future. If we have a big brother in the United States, being in the region, being a full member country, that creates opportunities for our players, then our sport will grow. I'm just not sure that West Indies cricket in its current format will survive.
Okay. Let's go to Crystal. Crystal, go ahead. Your question.
DP Stuart.
Yes.
If I may, before we move on to Chairman Crystal,
Sure.
if I could ask somebody from the Kiwanis Club of Kingston to move for an extension of 10 minutes for us to complete.
Yes.
So move.
Thank you,
second.
DP Chris.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Please go ahead, Chairman Crystal.
Thank you, President Newton and DP Stewart. Good evening, everyone, and good evening, Mr. Cameron. As a quick question. Good evening. As past president of the West Indies Cricket, what 3 things would you implement to improve our cricketers' overall performance? That's all.
So we did a comprehensive review, and we put in a franchise system in 2014. I'm hearing in circles that it has not done what it is supposed to do. The problem with West Indies cricket, Crystal, is it's the body called West Indies cricket that sits in Antigua is the least of the apostles, meaning all it does is it's really a marketing company. If you would have looked at my presentation, it markets West Indies cricket, which is what West Indies cricket was designed to do. We collect resources from selling our product, which is the players on the field, whatever. We then distribute that back to the territorial boards, who are the ones in charge of molding the next set of athletes to come up. The broken link has been with our territorial boards in that the system has not been robust enough. We put in a number of performance measures, we put in fitness standards, etc., and those things have been removed. And so if the things I would love to see, if we could get back to those fitness standards, put in a rigorous performance system, which is, you earn your spot based on your numbers and not because of who you were yesterday, and like to give you the model that New Zealand has a similar population size of Jamaica, well, of the Caribbean is about 4 million, and they are successful at every level of cricket that they play. Not just cricket, but also rugby, netball, and you name it. And it's for two reasons. One, discipline, and they have a very, very rigorous performance system. So if we could, one, the fitness, the performance system, and I don't know, the third one, of course, yeah, changing the economic model in cricket so that we could get some more resources.
Okay, I see another hand up. Oh, Crystal, you wanted to add something?
Just saying thank you for the answer.
Thank you. Thanks for that. Okay, let's go to Lloyd Smith, and we're gonna have to wrap in a short while, but let's go to Lloyd Smith.
Yes, good evening, Dave. As we know that the World Cup that's going to be done in the Americas region next year is going to create a lot of media coverage. As we know that the Asian Cup and the European Trophy and the African Cup creates a lot of revenue for those countries. Is it possible that we could take advantage of this World Cup being played in the Americas and create America's Cup that can actually start giving us more revenue and also giving us more TV coverage and media coverage? What you think about that, or what's your opinion on that?
Lloyd, thank you very much for that. You know that was my vision. Unfortunately, the name America's Cup is taken, but yes, that is a format that needs to be looked at, where the regional countries need to get together in the same way you have the Asia Cup, the African Cup, etc. I'm not sure who is spearheading that, but certainly someone like Neil from Bermuda, been on ICC for a number of years, need to be someone, and of course West Indies cricket, championing that so that you can have these things. So let me just explain to the persons here quickly. Part of the revenues of the other nations, especially Asia, is that they have what they call Asia Cup, and they play them every year, different formats, female, male, under 19, under 13, under 15, and that's how their development works. And because India backs them, the commercial value is there. And so that's how Asia has been developing so rapidly. And what Lloyd is saying, should we not try to have a similar type of events known as the Americas region to try and drive our development and commercialization?
Sounds like something that has potential. Okay, let's say one more. Okay, let me just ask you this Dave. You mentioned that about the standards, the fitness standards, etc., and a couple of things that you said you would want to do. Now, I'm nothing against the fitness standards, except sometimes when you look at Cornwall, and you know he can't make those fitness standards, but yeah, he's probably bowling the best. You know, but I won't take on that today, right?
Listen, no man, I actually want you to take it on, because here the problem with making an exception like Cornwall is where does the exception stops, and that's the problem. You know, that is the issue. When you start to, and again, I just want to say to you, everybody here, look at the New Zealand model. Look at New Zealand as a society, small in numbers and one of the most thriving societies in the world because of the discipline and the performance measures. So I say to you, we can't, continue to give blight, I call it, and expect to really improve.
Okay, I won't argue with you on that one. But let me ask you this: New Zealand, you have singled out New Zealand. Fair enough.
Yes.
But is New Zealand in the same economic position as the West Indies in terms of the revenues they get from cricket? Because they are a small market.
They are not. They are a first world country that has that has developed industries, etc. So they are not in our category. But the other thing about them is that they are the little brother of Australia. And so every year, tours go to Australia, again, because of we spoke about the big three, they go to New Zealand. And so New Zealand benefits from that from a cricket standpoint. But New Zealand is a first world country, and so their economics are very, very different from the Caribbean.
So it's not just the fact that they are probably more disciplined. I mean, wouldn't you say that if more money was coming to the region, wouldn't our cricketers be performing better? Wouldn't we be retaining more in terms of those who are available and not playing franchise cricket? I mean, isn't there an equation there?
I beg to differ. The numbers when we started a player prior to 2014, when we started the franchise system, when you played for the West Indies for a 4-day game, you got somewhere in the region of $200 and something for a game. We moved that to where players now are retained for $1,500 a month, and they make something like $1,000 per game that they play. So our players now make a minimum of $40,000 at the lowest level if you are just a C player in the system, and that has not turned out that they've improved their performance. What's required is management. So the failure has been us as administrators to hold them to the standards required in order to be international cricketers.
Okay. Well, hearing it from the boss. All right, I say, okay, I think we're coming close to, there are no more hands up. I don't, Chris, is Chris still on?
I see Lloyd Smith's hand up.
I'm here.
No,
I'm here.
Chris, let me hear you, man.
Yes.
Tell me you disagree with everything I've said.
Total nonsense, Dave. No, look, Dave and I have shared a lot of discussions over the years where we're virtually carbon copy of our thoughts because we've lived it, we've experienced it. The real unfortunate, I think, overarching issue facing the Caribbean is our size. And the reality is that we beat the world when cricket was an amateur sport. And so we've been fooled by those years of dominance to think that we can still compete in a sport that went through a paradigm shift. I always tell people that you can correlate the demise of West Indies cricket with the international growth of television rights. So as television rights started to explode, the sport became professional, massive resources became available to every other country, except the West Indies, just simply because of the size and scale of our domestic TV market. So whilst you saw England getting $200 million US a year, and of course, when you add on the multiples with sponsorships, etc., ticket sales, etc., because everything is being televised, your sport is promoted. So England gets $250 million US a year. The West Indies Cricket Board is getting zero for that same domestic TV line item, because the figures that Dave showed you was our international sales of TV rights. So, and he was comparing them with the domestic sale of TV rights for like an England or India. So, you just correlate that and extrapolate that over 20 years. One country has $4 billion pumping into their cricket just from domestic revenues, and another country has zero. So it was bound to happen. So things like unfortunately, I have to confess that I was the one that was doing all the presentations at the ICC when we got outvoted 9-1. So maybe it was my fault. But we held a meeting in the margin with every single country, trying to get them to not vote against the changing of the thing. And I did presentations to everybody individually. And the reality was that you just had no chance. West Indies cricket was an anomaly. for our size, we were a super performer that was able to command huge fees when we went to tour these other countries. Everybody saw what was going to happen with television rights, including us. So we wanted to keep that formula in place. And all the other countries wanted to keep it. And of course, countries you hoped, like a Zimbabwe at the time, South Africa at the time, that we thought had some commonality with us, would vote in our favor. All India and England had to do was promise them a couple tours, and they voted against us. So, you know, there's a whole geopolitical side of it, and so on. So, look, I've been advocating for a long time that Jamaica needs to look about its own future, because I don't see the future of Test cricket globally. And I think we can look back. When we look back on cricket, we're going to see two periods: cricket before T20 and cricket after T20. The T20, I don't even call it cricket anymore, because like most people that grew up on Test cricket, I thought of it as a gimmick. Well, this thing has exploded globally over the last 10, 15 years. And so you see all of these countries now playing T20 cricket. You see the number of registered cricketers in these countries. Japan has 6,000 registered cricketers. That's about the same as the West Indies. And they made the under-19 T20 World Cup. So you see the future. You see Qatar and Kuwait. And listen, when I saw Saudi Arabia, Aramco, the biggest company in the world, the most profitable company in the world, become a global sponsor of the ICC, my antenna it went up in the air. Then I see USA and Major League Cricket, and you look at the list. Has anybody looked at the list of investors in Major League Cricket? It's the CEO of Microsoft, the chairman and CEO of Adobe. Google is in there. It's incredible. And, you know, these are the things that just point to the fact that a massive amount of money is now available in the second biggest sport in the world. And we're getting left by the wayside. It's a time when we are retreating from the sport in Jamaica, when we should be trying to find a way to get in there. So that's the only comment I would make. And look, when you see what happens with the T20 World Cup next year and the Olympic Games being in Los Angeles, hosting T20, and you see all of these Indian billionaires buying franchises in US cricket, something is happening, but we just don't have the capability or understanding and contacts in the business world to take advantage. That's the reality.
Thanks, Chris. It's also interesting to note that some of the company CEOs that you mentioned, they're also Indian. In fact,
all of them are Indian.
Yes.
30% of Silicon Valley is Indian. So
yes. Okay, Dave, you were gonna say something. Was it your voice?
No, I was just saying that just agreeing with Fisher, all of them are Indians.
Yes. Okay, I think we have had a wonderful evening. The only thing we haven't said, well, we kind of did a little bit a while ago, was kind of like the way forward. But Chris kind of had a little, there, and also in your presentation.
I did say that, President, that the way forward, as I see it, is that cricket continues to grow exponentially. Salaries will grow. Chris just spoke about it, what's going to happen in the US. I just don't believe that the West Indies cricket will survive in its current form. But cricket will continue to grow.
So something has to happen at what do you call it, Cricket West Indies? Something has to change there. In order, I mean, is it that the current setup, the people there don't have the kind of financial or marketing skills to realize this vision? I mean,
can I make a comment there on that?
Yeah.
Look,
okay, please.
West Indies Cricket Board came together at a time that unity, that sort of camaraderie to sort of compete against the motherland of Britain and England was necessary. And it gave us all an incredible sense of pride and ownership of this thing called West Indies cricket. So so we all love it, but But the reality is that in today's world, do anybody in Jamaica, the under 30, even think about West Indies or the motherland, competing against the motherland, the importance of unity? The emotional attachment isn't there anymore. And so when you look at these, the sheer inefficiency that West Indies cricket creates, you know, they will tell you if 100,000 US is going to be split amongst the territories, you better believe all the territories are going to get an equal share. Which company do you know are going to share 100,000 US equally when one country have 3 million people, another country have 300,000 people, it just made a totally inefficient use of resources. And politically, it is impossible to say to another country, hey, we have 3 million people, so we need to get more money to develop our cricket. It just won't happen. And therefore, I think it's an organization whose time has passed.
Moderator, I beg your pardon, 30 seconds. Because Chris, Jamaica has one of the brightest minds in this thing. When I've been listening to cricket for years, and when I'm listening to international cricket and people are calling in, 8 out of 10 of those calls are coming from Jamaica. So if what Chris has just expressed in the direction of the shorter version and where the money is, right here on this platform with Dave and Chris and your guys' experience, not just in cricket, but also the financial world, we can position ourselves that is Jamaica, to get into that market. We have done it on athletic platform. We can do it in cricket because we do have the talent. We do have the skill set, in terms of the business. And we do have, Jamaica is one of the widest educators or persons involved in sports right across the board. Because as I said, when I listen, you ask any Jamaican men, and all of you there, you can touch on any sporting activity. So cricket, which is a passion of ours, I believe if you guys really take up the realm and the passion that I see and know that you two have, among many others, we come together as our own coalition and step forward into the new era. And our youngsters will come because, again, if you show them where the finance is going, things doesn't remain the same. And it's now a change in the wind. And if they can see that, not everybody is going to be a Usain Bolt, but a man can be that test cricketer, which we have in us. So I challenge you both to get that Jamaican contingent to get into that market, because I love cricket and I really would love to see even the 2020, although I love my test. But if it's that I will take it.
All right, Miss Winsome, we hear you.
Okay.
Mr. Chris.
All right, thanks, gentlemen. It has been very informative. I think it's now time for me to call on DP Earl, who is going to give the vote of thanks.
Well, good evening, all.
Fortis.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, we hear you.
All right, good. It is my pleasure, especially who is a Fortis man presenting,
yes,
for me to welcome and thank him. You have brought us, well, what do you say? They say Jackass said the world no level. And this is a great example brought home. You have brought us down to earth with much food for thought, Sir Dave. And as we have learned from the discussion, there's always more to it than meets the eye. If you think of a simple thing like this, you have a good year as a president or whatever, and the next man wants to be president. And when he goes, the scenario changes. So you have to adjust. That's one of the things I think you had a set of people who have wanted Jamaica to go alone because of the insularity and so on. And it has never happened. No, Olympics is bringing home the truth. And as you are indicating, we have to, our leaders have to take a new direction. Otherwise, the dying thing will really die. And it's good that you have seen where the growth can come. And I only hope those who are in the position to assist us will make that a reality. At my age, I mightn't see it because I've touched one of those decades that plenty haven't reached. And I am only hopeful for the cricket. I can say that one of the things that I'm sure you have mentioned, Dave, is this fitness standards. You recall Mikey Holdings saying that when he went to Kerry Packer, they never knew training like that ever existed. And they had to perform every time, and they did it so well. It never rubbed off properly. And part of the thing why it didn't rub off properly, I would say, is the condition of our fields. I remember as a schoolboy, I was going to be diving on those stones. And now you have these carpets, as it were, and the fantastic catches and so on. But if they're not fit, they're going to fade. You see the tennis, for you to reach the final, you better be fit. And if it doesn't become a mantra of the sport, that also will lend to our demise. And I must thank you on behalf of the Kiwanis Club of Kingston for this great presentation. I thank Chris too for his input and all those who participated. This has been a wonderful evening, and it has left us with, well, I can't do anything about it, but we can talk about it. And if it reaches the ears and they listen, let him that hath ears to hear, let him hear. Thank you very much, Dave. And it is, I'm sure everybody was greatly appreciative of your efforts at enlightening us. Thank you.
And let me also add.
Oh, sorry. And we have this certificate of appreciation that you saw. It was for you. And I know they're going to get not a virtual copy to you, they'll get a real copy to you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, DP Earl.
And I just mentioned, let me just mention that this will be on YouTube. So it will be available. One can access it by going to the Kiwanis Club of Kingston YouTube channel. We call it the KCOK YouTube channel.
Boy, always KC, man.
Yeah, man, always KC. It has to be something.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Listen, if there's one thing I'd like to leave with you that we all could be mindful of, is I said to you in the presentation that cricket was built on the backs of sugarcane,
right?
Bananas, and then bauxite. Today, those industries are nowhere. And if we really want to be serious about cricket, we need to either one, have some rules, laws, tax incentives for people to invest in sports, cricket in particular. And secondly, we need to have one of the industries adopting cricket, where it's going to be tourism or finance, which have to be the biggest industries now in Jamaica. So we need to ponder on that, because cricket is by far the most expensive sport you could ever participate.
Yes. And Sandals is doing their bit. We need more.
Dave, can I say a word here, if you don't mind? Dave?
It's not my forum. Yes, I suppose. Yes,
go ahead.
I've been trying for a long time. I had my hands up for long, just to say a few words and to educate quite a.
Should we get some extension on time?
Hello?
Yes, man.
It's okay. We did it already.
Yeah, we
So
did
we have
it.
attention. So
Yeah,
we're
we did that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, sir. I wanted to inform quite a couple of you guys to understand or to know what Mr. Dave Cameron has been doing. Because as Mr. Doran said a while ago and explained to you where the US is going right now and the distance, and I said very far, we're way, way, way ahead. I even think we're way ahead of the Caribbean.
That's Jamaica.
No, the US. You're saying the US is way ahead of the.
I am talking about US because I'm talking to you from New York. I'm talking to you from New York. And what I'm saying, and I'm very, very much involved in cricket in New York. In true fact, let me identify myself. I've been honored by the New York Metropolitan Cricket League for all of my years in service. And it also did that while I was in Jamaica. But let me say this. Many of you don't know the work that Mr. Dave Cameron have been doing for our people. Especially because I am the one who went through the trouble to invite Mr. Dave Cameron here in America to inspect grounds so that we can find an area to build a stadium where we could use as our home for our cricket. And he was well received here. We here in America know the work that Mr. Dave Cameron has been doing. And that's one of the reasons I get very emotional, because I cannot forbid, for the love of Christ, how Jamaicans could have refused Mr. Cameron for going back. So today,
Point of order.
You see, today I'm very emotionally about it here because I know what's happening. Today, Mr. Dave Cameron could have been the head of ICC cricket. And you know why he's not there? Because of Jamaica.
Is this the forum?
Jamaica did not support him. And I'm telling you this. The mayor of New York City, the mayor who is a black American, had honored Mr. Dave Cameron for his contribution for cricket right here in America. Many people don't know. We're talking about the Indian coming on World Cup playing here next year. Who you think instrumented all of that work? That work was done by Mr. Dave Cameron. Today, everybody jumping on the bandwagon, and people is not talking about the work that Mr. Dave Cameron have done. And I'm telling you, when the mayor of New York City, Mr. Adams.
Okay, we're gonna
sorry,
have to
and we want to thank you for that, Mr. Charles. It's really important that we know where the real information is. Unfortunately, we are about 30% over our normal meeting time. So really thank you for that contribution.
That's the reason why I was putting up my hands for so long.
Oh, it didn't show, but we're glad you got the chance to. We're glad you got the chance to let us know what is happening, and we really appreciate that.
Mr. Dave Cameron is responsible for what is happening into America with cricket now, and he have also been honored by the U.S. Congress.
Next week.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That it's good to know. Thank you. Really appreciate it. But no, I think we're going to have to move on to our Sergeant at Arms. I too want to thank Mr. Cameron and Mr. Deering and everyone else who have participated. And I'd like to move on now to our Sergeant at Arms, Zuri Johnson. Are you there, Zuri?
I don't think he's on the call. President has suggested a blanket fine.
Okay. Well. Since it was such a great evening, we will just ask all members of the Kiwanis Club of Kingston to make a small donation, $200, to our coffers for this evening, just $200. Please remember to hand it over to either DLG, Willie, or myself. All right. So therefore, we now need to look at notices and announcements and interclub opportunities with Secretary William Reeser.
Thank you, President Newton. Interest of time, just a few notices. On Thursday, the Christmas Ball Planning Committee will be meeting at my house at 6 p.m. That's in respect to our Christmas ball on Friday, December the 15th at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel. On Sunday, December 3 at Kuna Mutual, that's on Manhattan Road, we will be having the DCM, the Visual Council meeting. This was the one that had to be postponed from the weekend when we had the inclement weather. Registration begins at 9 a.m. Just a couple of invitations. There's one from New Kingston, Kiwanis Club of New Kingston, inviting us to their fish fry at the Police Officers Club on Friday. That's December 1. That's from 11 to 4 p.m. On Saturday, December 9, Concert Spring is inviting us to their all-white party. That's at the Footprints Cafe on Belmont Road. Tickets are $1,500. And lastly, on Thursday, December 21, Kiwanis Club of Montego Bay is inviting us to their Christmas cake sale as well as Dutch auction at their meeting at the RADA office. That's on Thursday, December 21. And so far as in the clubbing opportunity, I will circulate the schedule tomorrow. So at this time, I just turn it over to President Newton. You may just ask anybody, any other club who wishes to make an announcement to do so at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary William. And as Secretary William just said, is there any other Kiwanis club online now that has any announcements or interclubbing opportunities that they would want to let us know about? None?
Yes, absolutely. Hi, everyone. Good evening. So in addition to Kiwanis Club of New Kingston, the Seafood Friday that was just advertised, I would like to invite everyone to our comedy night tomorrow at the Police Officers Club. This is shaping up to be a very, very good evening. We will have one of Jamaica's renowned comedian, Delia Harris. We will also have Don Reed. The contribution is only $500. So really inviting everyone to join us at the Police Officers Club tomorrow at 6. Thank you. 6 p.m. that is.
Thank you.
Good evening. Yes, good evening again. This is Winsome Radcliffe, Kiwanis Club of Grand Cayman and Lieutenant Governor for Division 26 for the Florida District. I must just commend the Kiwanis Club of Kingston for this event. Much appreciated and something long time in coming. Well done, gentlemen.
And we're glad you took the time out to join us. And we have many more weeks like this. So whenever you want to, feel free. We meet like this every Tuesday.
Thank you.
Any more announcements? Okay. You're welcome. Any more announcements? Okay, well, we'll move on to thoughts of the week from DP Christopher Robinson. Well, I don't think DP Chris played cricket, but it's your turn, DP Chris.
How you know that?
No, he looks more like a footballer.
Looks sad deceiving.
I don't think so.
Looks sad deceiving.
Unless it's American football you're talking.
Yeah.
Well, before I get into the thoughts for the week, let me just advise you, President Newton, that I did play a little cricket when I was at Wolmer's. It was at
and that's the cricketing school.
And that was way back when. And I also was the manager of the successful Wolmer's Sunlight Cup
85.
team of 1974, where we won everything. We won the Sunlight Cup and we won the Headley Cup.
Spalding Cup.
Spalding Cup.
The Spalding
you have
Cup,
your cricketing pedigree.
So
All right,
I know a little bit about the game.
Yeah, he managed good cricketers.
Yeah. Our thoughts for the week for today, I think November 28th. There's only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about the things which are beyond your power, beyond the power of your will.
Good.
Okay. Oh, you have two.
And our next thought for this week is that to conquer fear is the beginning of wisdom. And that was something I found that Bertrand Russell said. And those, President Newton, are your thoughts for the week.
Thank you, DP Chris. Very apt and welcomed.
President Newton.
Yes, PDT.
Just to inform on any other business that today we witnessed the celebration of the life of DP Victor Lumsden, who was the father of past district trustee. And it was really a wonderful gathering of Kiwanians. And I know our club was represented by DP Chris and myself. So I will send some pictures in the club group and maybe a video so that we can see how Kiwanians get together to support each other in trying times. Thank you.
And I would just support what PDT Ralston said. It was fantastic to see the number of Kiwanians who turned out this morning at that service of Thanksgiving. It was really, really heartwarming, and it's really reinforcing the, part of our creed, that we should always do unto others as we will expect they to do unto us.
Thank you, DP Chris. Thank you, PDT Ralston. And I'm glad you brought it up, PDT Ralston, because, oftentimes we, some of us will partake in these things, and then we don't share it with others. So there are people in the Kiwanis movement who don't realize how all-consuming, how gratifying at all stages of your life that being a part of this organization can be. So thanks for sharing. Well, I see that it's now 9:21, and some of us I'm pretty sure have passed our bedtime. But this has been a wonderful evening, so nobody has moved. But all good things must come to an end, they say. So at 9:21, I'm going to ask us all to raise our glasses. If those who don't have a glass, you can raise an imaginary glass and raise a toast to Kiwanis International, Jamaica land we love.
Kiwanis International.